Let's move on to our next story. But before that, Aditi, I think Aditi is very busy. She's scrolling through her phone. I don't think she's realized we are back from a break. Okay, this is the biggest problem, Aditi, nowadays. Everybody is hooked to doom scrolling. So are you.
Oh, I'm seriously sorry, Radhika. But yeah, this is also the word of the year. Oxford has chosen brain rot as word of the year. But I must tell you, Radhika, it is addicted. I'm addicted to scrolling to my phone.
That's right. In fact, Oxford English Dictionary has dubbed brain rot the official word of the year for 2024 as the result of people mindlessly scrolling through internet memes and sludge. It defines brain rot as the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state resulting from overconsumption of trivial material, especially in regard to information on the internet and other virtual accesses.
I absolutely agree, Radhika. And if you are also suffering from the same, or maybe our viewers are suffering from the same, then let's stay tuned. And we are being joined by two experts on this who can actually help you combat this doom scrolling. Aarti C. Rajaratnam, she's a psychologist and author. Amitabh Kumar, founder of Social Media Matters. They both join us. A very good morning to both of you. Aarti, I am addicted to doom scrolling and so are many like me. How can we exactly first define us? What is doom scrolling and how to combat it?
Okay, so to set the context right, we have two types of focus. Right? We have what's called the default mode, which is called mind wandering. And that's the default mode, which means 80% of the time, all of us like to daydream. The second is what we call the spotlight focus, where, you're sort of focused on some work like studying, reading, something like that. A species requires a lot more of the default mode because it helps you integrate information. For example, I've been taught a physics lesson or I've read a book. To make it meaningful for my brain, I need the default mode. A lot of money has been spent by what we call attention managers because attention is a commodity right now and it comes under surveillance capitalism. So what has been done is that they've actually made the internet and all of these reels and whatever you're doing in the doomsday scrolling to mimic the mind. So the real problem arises from the fact that our own mind is no longer able to discriminate between what is the mind's mind wandering and what you're doing in doomsday scrolling. So I wouldn't call it addiction as much as I would call it a lack of discrimination between your own mind's capacity to do mind wandering. Now, when you don't have mind wandering, what also happens, like meaning that, some word like brain rot, why does it come in? It comes in from the simple fact that your cognitive and mental functions and psychological functions are going down. A lot of my research points to, what we call screen inferiority, which is we've been able to time and again prove since 2009, we've been able to prove that what you read in a hardcore book, a hardbound book, a paperback, is definitely something you retain much more than what you watch on a screen. It may seem very entertaining initially because it's mimicking the mind, but when it comes to assimilation, because the default mode is missing, you're unable to actually make sense of information and store it. That is the root cause of brain rot, and I'm glad that this has become the word of the year. Because in 2013, in my book, I had written about it as mental toxins. I talked about a toxin being something that changes your brain and your personality very subtly and very silently. Why toxin? Because you don't know that it's in your environment, unlike a poison which kills you immediately. And it's taken 10 years for the world to wake up after that to understand that this is what is happening. So I hope I've sort of set the context for the discussion today.
Let me also put this question across to Amitabh Kumar, who is the founder of Social Media Matters. Amitabh, take us through the impact of doom scrolling, of course, and how do social media algorithms and news platforms really contribute to this trend of doom scrolling? And how does it reinforce doom scrolling habits? And are there any tools or apps designed to really help people limit their exposure to negative news or to news in itself, to overconsumption of stuff online?
Thank you. Good morning to everybody. And I think Aarti ma'am has set the context in a very beautiful manner and completely agree and echo with you. Ma'am have been working in the space since 2010. So let's get started because it's a news channel. A lot of the stuff that we are consuming online is not news. It is not even real. It is pretty much fake and photoshopped and, AI generated today. That's part number one. Part number two, and this is something that we do in our workshops in schools, colleges with parents, is actually raise user awareness about why are you picking up the phone. One of you was playing with the phone. It's just turned into a habit now. The second the mind wants to relax, and man can definitely put it in scientific manners, but we all know it. The second we are getting bored, the phone comes into our hand, we start scrolling, and there is no time limit to it, right? So back in the day, there was an article from BBC that watching 11 o'clock late night news is going to be very problematic. 11 o'clock late night news, but it used to be time bound. The problem with doom scrolling is you can do it for 5 minutes or you can do it for 15 hours, 5 days non-stop. And the algorithm, and this is the important part, you are paying attention. It is actually making money of you staying on the platform. When these very large platforms or VLOPs do their quarterly meeting, they tell their investors how many hours did an individual spend on the platform. This is money, this is business. And post COVID, we have seen a crazy spike in it because COVID was a time when all of humanity went into this emergency scared mode. And whenever the mind is scared, it is looking for answers. When it is looking for answers, this little device in our hand seems to be the easiest place to grasp it. Only problem is different from reading, different from television is there is no stopping of it. When we read a book, we read it in our voice on our tempo. Television also takes a break. Doom scrolling, depending on your pace, I know of children in schools who watch YouTube, Instagram, and Snap simultaneously on multiple devices. That is where the digital natives' minds have reached. But none of it, and I'm being very critical here, 99% of it is total garbage. Has very little to do with anything informative, educative, or creative. 1%
I
is positive, and
absolutely
there are
agree,
good
Amita, with your
choices.
point that the Gen Z and we, all of us, are very hooked because it is easily accessible. But then let's also talk about what's the solution then. Aarti, you know, Australia banned social media for kids under the age of 16. But is curbing the use of social media, will it be really a good solution to it? Because, you know, as per the norm we see, the more you curtail something, the more, you know, people find some other way to consume it. There are illegal ways to consume it. So is banning an option?
Bans are not going to work as much as awareness. One is awareness. The second is that we need to start modeling behaviors for younger people, right? It's very important. The onus lies on a lot of parents and adults who are working with children. See, unless we put down the phone, make relationships engaging, it's not going to work. I've written time and again that, you know, to be able to reduce an addiction of any kind, it's only a human connection that is possible. Very often what's happening is people are not spending time to build relationships. And when you don't build relationships, you will not be able to overcome an addiction of this kind. The second thing with doomsday scrolling is the fact that it is infinite scrolling. It was the work of Azar Askin, where, you know, you don't have to refresh at the end of a page. So, you know, you keep getting suggestions. And like my co-panelists mentioned, you know, you sometimes lose time so much that you don't even know that you've spent about 10 hours. And I know a lot of mental health issues that have come up from this. The brain rot symptoms, number one, attention deficit. You'll notice that a lot of children have delays in language and speech development. They have no skills socially and they're not able to communicate. In fact, there was a Romanian study that brought in a term called digital autism, or, you know, it mimics autism itself. But at many points, he called it virtual autism. I'm sorry, I correct myself there.
Yeah.
Virtual autism, because children are not getting the optimal experiences of attuned, you know, human interaction. And that is going to be a pandemic of sorts going forward. And if you notice, brain rot is taken from potato rot, which means, you know, it actually spoils from within. It's not something from the outside that's destroying you. It's your own brain's inability, your own nervous system's inability to make sense of the content. So when you ask me about a solution, I would say, number one, building relationships, and that's very important. Two, hands-on play, and this is for adults and for children, because we've forgotten the ability to be joyful and playful, because we find something easier. It's called the law of least effort. You don't have to do anything to be able to entertain yourself and get a dopamine high when you're using a gadget. But when you have to go out and play a game, when you have to hike, when you have to listen to music, play an instrument, read a book, you need to put in a lot of effort. And the most important point I want to make here is reading is considered the highest form of empathy. And when we reduce the ability to read, when we give children these gadgets that don't make them read, we're actually making them less empathetic, less compassionate, and it's going to be a problem much longer. So I would start at the root, start with relationships where we build bonds, we model the right behavior around gadgets. And the third and the most important thing I feel is that we need to understand that technology is going to come in a bigger way. This is just the beginning. Evolutionary biology already says that our species requires 1,000 years to be able to develop the neurological capacities and the capabilities to be able to handle the digital world. And if we don't respect that, we're going to have more and more crises involving the nervous system. And this is supposed to be a wake-up call. And I'm glad that this word of the year will be read by many people. And I hope this message reaches a lot of people.
Right. Also, Amitabh, I want to take the same question to you. How does one break this habit? How does one navigate this excess flow of information and content that we are seeing online without being really addicted to it? So, are there, once again, I'm asking you, are there any tools, apps perhaps designed to help people limit their exposure to, these kind of content?
Oh, there are multiple solutions out there, but rather than going for the tech solution, I would again push for the human solution. So, like ma'am said, spending time with your child, digital parenting is actually about showing human emotions. Human touches are more important than trying to find an app. And you can put a screen lock, but children are the best hackers out there. So if you put in a good digital hygiene practice where, very simple, on Sunday, during breakfast, keep the phones away. During lunch, keep them away. During dinner, keep them away. Spend time together. It is getting complex for parents to have conversations with children. And this is actually a battle between digital migrants, people like us who did not have the internet, and digital natives who were born into it. So the way children approach technology is very different. It's probably because similar to you and I approaching electricity and the way our parents approach electricity, normality to something special. So rather than going and finding another app to install to save you from other apps, keep the devices away. There are multiple beautiful, great things to be done in the real world. So digital parenting, digital teaching, schooling is all about the human touch. Trust me, what happens in India, there's a very big problem that we think that if we don't give our child the computer right away, they will not be able to learn it. Technology is getting so much simpler that our grandparents can pick up and use chat gpt and AI today. Technology will get simpler. Instagram does not teach you coding. What we need to understand is there is a use of technology and then it is getting abused by technology. And we need to draw that line where we ensure children learn how to communicate with other humans. Children learn how to stay in company of other humans, how to express themselves beyond technology. You can still paint, dance, dream, do multiple other things which are in the real world. Technology is an enabler. It's just a part of your life. Please don't make it all of your life. Because then what you end up serving are the very large platforms which are already making profits. So, drawing a balance, and India has been known to be a country which has promoted balance even in our history. I would suggest promote balance, talk about technology with your child at home and even in school. Please ask the teachers, why are you giving him an iPad? There must be a reason behind it. That very simple why of picking up technology is what we need to focus upon and keep it simple. Don't try to complicate it. Stay away from the marketing. Humans have always picked up technology from the days of fire and wheel. This is also a technology. It is far more fancier. It is far more integrated. But at the end of the day, natural life is where you need to be. This is a part of it. It is documentation, it is sharing of information, but creation of information is still very much happening in the real world. And please go back to reading books, writing books, listening to songs, writing songs. That creativity is important, and not just for children, even for adults. It is the parents who are hooked on to the devices which make it so important. If the parent is holding a cricket ball or if it's holding a painting brush, the child will get attracted towards that. They are just aping you. Also, parents, please don't be shy of saying no. You can say no to your child. I find parents in this dilemma where in 2024 they're trying to be super moms and super dads. and not doing the basics.
Right.
Children do not know it all. It might seem that they can pick up an app and start using it, but they do not know it all. So you need to say no and draw boundaries, especially when they are young.
Well, absolutely. Amitabh, you have highlighted key points and the right solution and the right approach that we all need to take forward to combat this doom scrolling and not let it lead to a brain rot situation that we have now. Thank you so much, Aarti, for joining us, and Amitabh. Very insightful discussion. Thank you so much.